Hello everyone, tonight we're doing some Geoguessr, but this time I actually plan to do Geoguessr rather than this being just a last ditch. I need something that I can actually stream rather than something that's, you know, not working properly. Which, oh, I guess I didn't actually finish last time? I've got a view of the vehicle from which the pictures were being taken. It looks to be somewhere a bit rural. Hmm. The signage doesn't look quite familiar, so. But, we haven't seen pretty much any writing yet, so. Okay, here we go, we've got something. We can get a good look at this sign. And it's way too blurry. Okay, I'm gonna... Okay, my thinking is maybe somewhere towards Scandinavia. You know, wherever or Kakakangas is. In Kako, okay, in Kanti. Because pretty much any distance, it feels like. Like the images are just like just barely the poor enough quality. That any writing has to be like right there in front of you to really be able to make it out, or it has to be really big. I don't remember that I finished. The last run that I did last time I streamed this. I've got Prisma. Some kind of store. Bohino. Yeah, it seems vaguely Scandinavian. And I'm not, to be honest, I'm not sure. Oh, hold on, there's flags of some kind. Maybe if this is, a state building, this is some kind of government building, and it's signage for the business over here. Yeah, they're apparently outside of Zeppelin, and which looks to be basically like a mall of some kind. It has H&M, Prisma, the color yellow, no Specsavers, Capel, no Lindex, Class Olson, Mamuti Koti, Arnold's, Rosso, Mix, Biggs, Artiki, and ABC. Do you know, all of my inability to read so much of this text around here makes me feel like I need to go to Specsavers, but hold on, what was going? What was up over here? Why is it censored at that specific angle? Well, hold on. Hold on. It's a camper. It's a camper, and there's a window that has a curtain over it. What is going on inside this camper? Like right at, like in the back of this camper. Like right as the Google car was going by. Which, hey, good to know that, if for some reason you're like, maybe like changing your clothes in front of the window of your camper in a public parking lot. At least if the Google car drives by, they will preserve your modesty. You know, they're not... Granted, you know, it probably more to do with the, you know, legal stuff than necessarily it being an act of kindness on Google's part. Or to make sure that, you know, nobody's junk is just on Google Maps for anyone to see. You know, what if we're in the Netherlands? Is that... no. Actually, yeah. Yeah, I would believe that maybe that some of this writing is in Dutch. Here we are now in a little neighborhood, and it keeps... Okay, we've reached the end of where we can go on this residential street. Maybe we've got to back up. Like, we can just return to start. Let's see about going in a different direction. At least I think this is a different direction. Get Rauda now. Or Crowda. Whichever. Yeah, definitely thinking this is... I'm still thinking this is in Scandinavia. Right, we've got Leos. What is a Likama or Likatela? Because this is apparently 8,000 square meters. Acquisital Vapa Passi. Yeah, would help big time if I knew any amount of the language that that we're dealing with here. Oh, we've ended up having from Zeppelin again. It feels like Zeppelin is probably... I mean, I guess it might not... Okay, hold on, here we go. Europress.fi. Hey, it looks like we're in Finland. Yeah, the Finland seems to be the main ones using like Finnish. Out of the languages, this in Scandinavia, Finnish seems to be the main one using that particular or accent mark. Go back to the start. Might just plunk us down right here. Apparently we were over... Yeah, here we go. Complicate. Let's get Zeppelin, so... Alright, we are in front of an apartment complex, and... Ooh, it's... So this is interesting. I'm going to have to guess based on this apartment complex or whatever. Or really, this looks like it could be like a university campus somewhere or something. Like we're in a public park or something somewhere, and we're stuck. Because like it's not giving me any options to leave the park. I'm gonna have to guess entirely on like the vibe of the architecture, I guess. I'm just gonna plunk it down in, I don't know, France? Relatively close. That was at least I was on the right continent. And we were apparently... We were apparently right here in London. Near the Roman Road Adventure Playground. Okay, good. We've got... got tacos, we've got, I presume Spanish. And we have, most important of all, the ability to move. And we're not just stuck in one specific spot. But probably gonna want to narrow it down a little bit more, because there's a lot of countries that speak Spanish. Got like a gated community or something. Things we've got. Like that's confirmed from that's a confirmed feature of the culture here. And I've managed to end up in the same dead end. And for a second time. Gonna take a wild guess. In Mexico, but could just easily be Spain, and it is in fact Mexico. Alright, we are out in the desert somewhere. Because, got quite a few camels. Those just by the side of the road. I feel like I've seen that style of hat before. But it could be anything from... It's a specific... that it's specific to some place, and I don't remember where, or it could just be a common type of hat. So, hats looking vaguely familiar does not necessarily mean much. Got a nice long stretch. Has that... Yeah, what appears to be Hebrew? I'm gonna kind of take a guess and say that actually, yeah, I mean just gonna plunk it down here in Israel, and we were in fact only a little ways from from Jerusalem. See, if I continued for a while, I probably would have been able to narrow it down on a lot more. Right, we've got the very last of the very best. There's 2-acre lots, only 5 left. Evergreen Ridge, Tony Panisi, evergreenridge.com.au. So we're in Australia, from the looks of it. One of the greener parts of Australia. Of course, you know, given the proximity, we could very well be in New Zealand again. Without... I mean, the best proof we've got, us where we are, is that web address so far, so... Yeah, I'm gonna go with Australia until we get more definitive proof otherwise. Yeah, eeaustralia.com.au. New Franz excavations. There's good old Tony Panisi again. It's a reasonably green area of of Australia, so probably be relatively inland as well. Well, because I've yet to see any signs of the coast. I believe I saw a mountain. Return to start and if we can't go in a different direction. Hmm. Jimboomba Lions Park. We got a park full of lions. Unless it's a sports team. Yeah, I mean, if we're in Australia, then it would be a sports team, wouldn't it? Unless they imported lions and to put in this park. Like Payne Bridge. I think we're wherever Jimboomba is. This is the second time the name has come up. Presence of a bridge here means that Jimboomba is near a significant river or other body of water. Cocklebiddy. There's a river, but that's like chance I'm saying like intersected or Well, there's definitely quite a bit to this river. Whether this is actually the river we need, it remains to be seen. And from the looks of it, is not. I'm just gonna plunk it down here. Ah, here's Jim Boomba. It's right near Brisbane. Ogres 1 Viscola? I've got some kind of neighborhood. Zinibu Nuyela. Whatever that means. Hold on. Okay, so that's a different crosswalk sign. And then it was in Finland, I think. Okay, so it looks Musica Scola. I'm willing to bet Scola means school. Yeah, in fact, this has the exact vibes of like a campus. I feel like the school that I go to has literally this kind of walkways. This clearly isn't it because, you know, the Ogre's 1 Vitiscola. You know, it's in a completely different country from where I am, most likely. Projects Uzlabolt Vispa or Aegis. Okay, I think that looks like it could be a flag possibly overlaid on top of the silhouette of the country. Is there a country that looks like that? Could also be maybe the flag overlay on the shape of the region or something. That looks vaguely like the flag of Austria. Yeah, could easily, you know, be the shape of whatever subdivision of the country that this particular place is in. Like Kelna could be something important. Right, we're near Olbroka. This might have had something useful on it if it weren't so faded. Oh, Vienna Insurance Group. Oh, so seems like we may be somewhere near Austria. I'm gonna guess we're maybe even just straight up in Vienna. No, not at all. Not even the right country. Which, yeah, the Latvia is shaped like that, so... And that's why it said ogre. Because we were an ogre. Hey, I was right about it being like a college campus. Good to know that all the way in Latvia, college campuses don't look that different. Okay, hold on. This time we're in Latvia again. I want to say that's the same crosswalk guy. Like, they just... What if it just put me in another place in Ogre? Yeah, I feel like I feel like we might be in Latvia. Let's just gonna go with Ogre. Yeah, we were in Latvia again. We were just in Dugavpils. Mills. Failed the panorama of this round. Try again. Okay, we're in. We've got another hard mode. This time we're inside cook shop. But hey, at least there's writing this time. And hey, since we've got all of this stuff for cooking around, we might even can even like look at brands, and we can look at like what kind of cookware they have, and that'll give us an idea of what the local culinary culture's like. Right, I think giving me Scandinavia vibes. Or is it that they use that particular or accent mark? Hmm. Oh, well, hold on. Well, I mean, this doesn't necessarily mean anything because, if we're anywhere in Scandinavia, then it's extremely plausible for, there to be a Swedish import. I think I'm good on partying for this. I usually just play solo. Hold on. Hold on. I think we may in fact be in Sweden. Because that's the first time I've seen place name with that particular accent mark that's also up here. Right, something strata. Yeah, this definitely looks like Swedish. And I think country is about the best we're gonna get. Maybe we can plunk down in Stockholm. I'm gonna be close. Yeah. Just a large city. Jetpack surface is PTTE limited. Okay, so we're got a good amount of English. And no other languages so far. And barricades. Didn't I see a Canberra somewhere? Yeah, literally, literally right here. Or we apparently could have been in Singapore. Why did it say Canberra Cares if we were in... Oh, because there's also a Canberra Plaza in Singapore. Again with the failed to load panorama. Okay, we're in Japan. Wait, no? No, that's Japanese, I think. Yeah. I think this is Japanese. The Aeon Mall. It's a reasonably large city. Doesn't necessarily mean all that much. Dog salon. Eat. But you know, without any particularly like internationally recognizable landmarks, necessarily even like a frame of reference where to look for the city name. And I'm not sure if I can get all that much closer than just which country. Maybe if I could find something, if I can just identify something that's likely to have like the city name just plastered on it. Okay, if this happens to be like a political ad, then maybe like particularly municipal. Or this doesn't seem to match. Okay, so it looks like most major cities have like two characters in their name, 2 to 3 characters in their name. But this doesn't appear to be any of them. And yeah, without yeah, there could be all sorts of places that have the an address as the full address listed, like on advertising, for instance. And I wouldn't know because as I don't know well enough how to read the address to tell where the city name is. I guess I can just keep wandering until I at least find something that, you know, sticks out. Hold on. Road signs, that's what we need. Signs that tell you, you know, here are the nearby cities. Unfortunately, I've lost the thing that I was trying to look at. Maybe this sign will something. And it's for well, it's something at least. Yes, because it's got to do with the freight system. You know, chances are the freight probably only just runs within city, and you know, they don't feel the need to tell you the city on the sign. Unless, of course, this is just a place called Takamatsu or something. Shame that I couldn't have gotten a good look at that. Then it probably would have told me, like, possibly exactly what city we're in. Oh, here we go. Apparently we're 5 kilometers from Kokubunji. Of course, you know, we just knew, like, prefecture or something. I think that would narrow things down a little bit. I'm just gonna plop it down here. And oh, we were in fact in a city called Takamatsu. And what do you know? We're in Japan again. It looks like we're in a smaller town this time. We just like went from urban to rural. Just gotta plunk it down somewhere in, I don't know, here. On complete other side of the island. Well, why do you know we're in like the exact same spot in Jerusalem? From the looks of it, unless this guy from before is just here with his mule striking the exact same pose again. The same with this guy, just somewhere else. And I remember that it was like right around here. Oh, I was a little bit further along the road than I was supposed to be. But you know, I I recognized it is that guy immediately. It's like, oh yeah, this place was a little ways outside of Jerusalem. Impressive. There's a fast finger at gmail.com. Antigua. Is it? Oh, hold on. A flag. It's being blocked by. At pretty much every good angle, it's being blocked by trees. Hmm. I feel like I should know what flag that is. One thing's for sure, probably not in Europe because they've got not the flag seemingly everywhere. I get the feeling that Glock. What? I sure hope that that isn't anything vulgar that I just read, because it's in a language I don't know. It doesn't even appear to be the language of the country we're in. That's CL. BCI. I maybe. No, I think. Oh, okay, we're in Chile. Just a matter of figuring out where. It seems like Geoguessr is having a little bit of difficulty. Yeah, hopefully. It make that a lot of difficulty. Grill. Yeah, I think that's the only clue I'm getting. It's grill. You thought all the text too far away and low res. And it's just not letting me move, despite the... Despite everything being saying that I should be able to. They've just got this crusty chef with his grill, all in impact. I'm gonna take a wild guess based on like, architecture and. I'm gonna take a wild guess. It's probably wrong based on architecture and like, terrain. Say Greece? No, not even the right continent. And that was Panama, apparently. Failed to load panorama. And we're back here. But now it's saying that it's... Okay, so it's not repeating the round because now it's saying that this crusty chef, this crusty grill man, is in Mexico. Okay, where's Krusty Grill Man gonna be now? This is super hard mode. because it's just gonna show me the same place in Panama. And it'll be, I don't know, Ethiopia. Nope, we're supposedly on this island over near like Malaysia and Thailand. See? We're still grilling. I don't know, could this be Colorado? Nope. Now it's gonna be stuck saying it's this. I don't think we're anywhere near the Samui elephant home Geoguessr. But I mean, yeah, I can plunk it down there if that's what you want. Oh, and it's it's around 5 out of 5, so maybe we can escape. Yeah, over near the Samui elephant home. Nope, now it's in Italy. Okay, let's play again. Okay, we're free. We're free from the edges of low-res chef man. systems.lk. So this is, the vehicle. Just because that's the thing, like covering over What is this? He made Royal Brothers. Lake of Sorrows, Ocean of Tears, Valley of Death, End of Life. That spells love. Whoever this is, their edgy decal has been immortalized forever. The Attar Shop. The one and only exclusive perfume oil showroom, traditional Arabian and French fragrances. Arabian shawarma. Okay, finally we've got it. Okay, Dehiwala in... Looks to be maybe this region here. The alphabet here looks to be roughly right for this region of the world. I'll plunk it down there, and it was not out there. It was in Sri Lanka. That's not a sign. It's like a kayak on top of somebody's car. Oh yeah, and that got a nice pleasant drive to just kind of calm down from the excitement of the Grillzone. Oh, looks like we're in or near Denmark. Yeah, pop down right there. Near. There, because that was apparently Norway. Okay, we have French. The big question is where in the French-speaking world are we? Nummer, Hartford, Hartellen, and Libben. That could be. Especially if it's towards this side. You know what? We could be in Belgium, maybe. Actually, Wallux.com. Yeah, I'm gonna pop it down right there, and yeah, we're in Belgium. Uh-oh, failed to load the panorama this round. Okay, good. We didn't get like sent back to the Grillzone. Residence cars only. Praha Street. Hmm. Hmm. Seems like signage for maybe a bump, but probably more like signage that we're going up a hill. Which, you know, doesn't seem like it's a steep enough hill. Oh, for them to use a... Oh, why do you know? It's New Zealand again. There I was thinking, oh, you know, might... Probably just, like, not a steep enough hill, or something. It was Auckland. Okay, we're stuck again. And I can hardly make out any of these. I'm just gonna pop down with, I don't know, Finland. Relatively close. It was Latvia again. It's loving Latvia tonight. Another new round. So far, no issues. Other than I'm being sent backwards. I guess it's just the end of that road. CCTV in operation. You know, some wealthy person's house. I was out in. And the like a more rural area of wherever this is. Or maybe we're in a suburb. If it's the JE. I think it's that JE. Of course, you know, but it doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, it's Sherry Fitzgerald. It could very well be that they just picked J.E because that sounds like the beginning of Gerald. Like for whatever reason, that GE wasn't an option or something. I'm just gonna plug it down to the. Oh. I know it's not Brazil because unless they would have Portuguese somewhere. It was in Ireland. No clue where the .je came from. What's this sign all about? Split, Zadar, Ziglian, and Novalia. That sounds vaguely like the kind of languages they speak over in this area here. Here once again. What should be Latvia again? Nope. Croatia. In fact, there's Zadar, there's Split. If I just looked a bit harder. Okay, we are in... We are like on the side of a mountain overlooking city. We've got a friend here with an extra pair of eyes and an extra nose. We got Teresa. You know, I'm gonna guess that this is perhaps Crete. No, not at all. It was in fact in Peru. Wait, no, Bolivia. Like right near the border. Uh-oh, we failed the panorama of this round. Okay, there we go, we're good. Got a child, and we've got... Is that graveyard? Hold on, I think... Right, we've got... The Sibarang Padang Youth Center. Alright, I think we've got Islam. Maybe. I don't know. Really sure. Roba Hunt and in Perbet I can. You know, you would think I would get something about which country from what appears to be a political ad. Vaguely... Like vaguely Philippines vibes, maybe? Okay, again, in roughly the right area. Just not the right... island, it was over here instead. Again, to failed to load the panorama this round. Alright, we've got more other sort of tropical climate. You know what? What are the odds that it's over here again? Very, very high, apparently. Right, that's not that. A Galler, Luckelvard. Yes, I think maybe we're in Finland again. Could also be East Sweden. Some place called Cut the Crap. The SE, so I believe that is I think that's Central Sweden. Yeah, it's not Serbia. Serbia would have Cyrillic. Right. Old Beefeater Inn. I'm gonna plunk it down, Sweden, and it was in fact Stockholm again. And we might have even been able to find it. Okay, we're stuck again. Because like the drone just like settled down here or something, like you know, it's got the right vibe to be over here. Nope. Oh, completely wrong continent. That was Haiti. And failed to load the panorama. I think we're over here again. Yep. In fact, I think every time it's been Padang. Like that's just like the one area of that island and they have Google Maps on. It's just Padang. You tell Das System. Sounds like German. Yeah, let's maybe get some further confirmation. I don't think it's German. Don't believe German uses that. maybe Poland. Reasonably close. It was Lithuania. Alright, so that looks to be Spanish. Suppose it could be Portuguese. No real specific signs as to Saltas, Vacun, as grooming, Vinta de Medicina. Got a dog. The Quran and urbanization and cruise is acqui. Got some kind of party happening here. I feel like some of these names are familiar. I mean, just because the names are familiar doesn't necessarily mean that they're local. Well, to wherever we are. Ooh, Internet Plus. Think you might have something here. He seems important. Gonna plunk it down in South America, and too far south of Guatemala. Alright, fail to load the panorama this round. Okay. Fortunately, the error doesn't last long. It just takes a couple extra clicks. I don't think we're in Latvia this time. Hold on. I think... It's a different sign design. Yeah, I'm gonna plop it down and... No, it was Romania. Never mind. Ooh, this time... This time we're stuck in the sky. Fantastic. Hotel Sevilla. Doesn't necessarily mean that we're in Seville, though. But I'm gonna guess it anyway, and yeah. We were, in fact, not even... We were, in fact, in El Salvador. But yeah, that was the only thing I had to go on, was Hotel Sevilla, so... It's just in the sky with no options. The crosswalk guy seems vaguely familiar. Yeah, it's looking like we're in... The main place I can think of that uses thorn is, over here. Gonna plop it down over near Reykjavik. And I at least got the right country. This is apparently steep road. Alright, we've got an alphabet. It looks like it might be the alphabet used over here in Thailand. Oh, what do you know? This time we actually were seeing Koh Samui. Yeah, right here's the Samui elephant home. Right, car wash. It's Padang again. Alright, where's Padang? Well, there's a Padang. Oh, there's there's Padang. Yep. What do you know? We were in Padang again. If we we're right near the University of Padang. Just got Arabic. Jericho, no municipality. Because you know where Jericho is. I'm completely blanking on it. Is it somewhere in Arabia? No. No, it's in Jordan. Failed to load the panorama this round. Alright, I'm gonna guess this. Yeah, is this Colombo? No, it's not. It's not even the right country. Hey, this is Myanmar. Got to load the panorama again. But again, fortunately, the glitch is able to correct itself. I kind of want to try out a different location set after this run. somewhere out in open country. Yeah, there's a lot of dust. So far, nothing really indicate. I've got sheep. But yeah, there tend to be a lot of places with sheep, so. Okay, we've got English. Mick Dillon. You know, this feels like it could be somewhere right near where I live, so I'm gonna guess North Carolina. No, it's New Zealand again. But, you know, it didn't have, you know, like Maori-derived names to tip me off. Alright, we are on a ridge overlooking a city again. Could it be the same city from before? I want to say it was in Panama. Maybe it wasn't in Panama. Maybe it was somewhere else. I think it was in Peru. Yeah, I believe that is the same. Yeah, that is the same city. Not Peru, it's Bolivia because it's just over the border. But it is the same city. Failed to load the panorama of this round. And we are stuck again. Only this time it's fully a glitch. I'm just gonna pop this down pretty much anywhere. And it was New Zealand again. Yeah, we've got all these official maps to choose from. Ooh, we could even just go for just London. Or just New York City. Or just Israel. You know, why not go, oh, just like sightseeing through being in New York? Or we... I don't think this is New York. Pretty sure this is somewhere in New Zealand again. But hey, maybe it's Hoboken. That was actually surprisingly close. Because they were actually supposed to, you know, see like the New Care Pharmacy and the Gilland Law Firm. Yeah, I guess we just don't get to see New York City. So I'm just having to do a complete blind run of New York City mode. Alright, let's try that again. Okay, this time it's actually showing... It's actually showing us New York City. We've got West 99th Street on West End Avenue. Maybe if I get some distinct names that'll help. We've got Secure Comm Group, but I think that's just people doing some, yeah, powers bridging and scaffolding incorporated. That's just the people that own the scaffolding. And I don't think that has anything to do with the building. Oh good, we've got West 100th Street. I think I might... Oh boy. You know what a great sight. I don't actually know where this is. Oh, apparently it's over here. Oh, there's West 57th Street, so probably... Yeah, the street where you were on it for... There's somewhere around here, probably. Yeah, I think I want a little bit more variety than that. Now maybe let's go United States mode. Got like a suburb. Yale Avenue. Only I could remember where Yale is. That would be a good place to start. You know, if I just knew where Yale is, but unfortunately, the vast majority of the time I can't bring myself to give a shit about the Ivy League. Sweet D's Pickles. Or 40 different flavors, including alcohol. Danny's Barber and Beauty Salon. Okay, got it. Here's to be a glitching out bus. Okay, I'm gonna guess that maybe we're in Michigan. No. It was Michigan Street, but we were in Chicago. Right. North Gin Mullen. Texas Avenues. Maybe we're in Texas. I don't know, somewhere around San Antonio. Oh, actually, we were in fact somewhere around San Antonio. So this time being like guessing based on the first state name I saw got paid off. What does the sign say? Century 21. Crystal L. Pratt. I guess maybe New Mexico? No, Florida. Geoguessr Street hit on Mayberry Road. Benelli Wiley Lane. Unfortunately, it's once again a case of not being able to get a clear enough picture of the signage. Plunk it down somewhere. Oh, that was New York. Very, very hilly. I forget. Huh. Yeah, just bury someone like right next to the curb. That's a perfectly good place for a grave. Mr. Drippy Plumbing. Bluff Park Lodge. All Master Masons welcome. Having aches and pains? Schedule a complimentary screening today at Birmingham Health. If I could just remember where Birmingham is. But then again, there's probably multiple Birminghams. And so it might not even matter. After all, I mean, there's No, that's Binghamton. I want to say Birmingham is... Apologies to anyone that lives in Birmingham if I get this wrong. In a way that you find insulting. Massachusetts, ain't it? No, it's Alabama. Well done, you have received a new medal for United States. You can track your progress here. Alright, Atlanta Avenue. I wonder where we could possibly be. Surely they're gonna have Atlanta Avenue in Colorado. It was Alabama again, and not Georgia. Bartlett cock. Something school district. Something arts independent school district. Performing arts Leander, her independent school. Performing arts Center South Leander and her independent school district. We've got flagpoles. Maybe one of those will be a state flag. If it is, I'll make it out like Texas, maybe. It was. As we were apparently in Austin. Because Disney Springs needs transportation. That kind of narrows it down to like 2 locations. And so it's got anything to do with Disney. Cirque du Soleil. Is this anywhere near LA? No, it's Florida again. You know, it's Orlando. Which, you know, pretty much 50-50 shot if I picked if I just picked one of the 2 Disney parks. Yep, we've got the least helpful flags in the eggs that you could possibly see in this entire mode. And with the palm trees, I'm gonna. Is Florida again? No, it's Hawaii. We've got a bus stop. Got Winterberry Lane. Got the Wind Crested Condominium. This feels maybe like New England. It was in fact New York. I'm a master tourist now. Hmm. We've got we've got arid terrain, and we've got Terran reality. A couple of them. Gonna take a wild guess and say this is Texas. No, Missouri. Honey and Annie's Deli. Ruppo no thin crust pizza. Catch all your NFL and college games here at 7B Horseshoe Bar. Are brewed for the 100th season in Bud Light. St. Bridget School, New York. Alright, I'm gonna guess perhaps this is New York City. And it was indeed. It was in the East Village. Damn, this place is flat. Trinity Christian School. Types alone, I'm gonna guess perhaps Nebraska. And it is close, it was Iowa. I got a few more mountains here. I also got palm tree. Could be Florida, could be California. Yeah, I'm gonna go for Florida. And it's Hawaii again. I really need to think of Hawaii. Yeah, every once in a while. Got John Atkins. That tells me absolutely nothing. We've got the I think Mo something family. Perhaps Morris. Perhaps in Iowa again? Nope, that was Delaware, apparently. Alright, I think this is gonna be the final round. Lancelot Drive. And Round Table Road. Interesting theming. Perhaps it's named something like Camelot or something. Because, you know, that would fit the theme. Lucier Avenue. Thank you, frontline heroes. Yep, and you know, here we have, you know, in case you forgot we were in America. Check twice, save a life, motorcycles are everywhere. Oh look, Massachusetts. Well, I'm not seeing anything named like Camelot or anything, so I'm gonna just go with the funny option and put it in Cummington. Oh, really? Or oh, okay. That was just an area of Providence. Oh, and also only just barely in Massachusetts. It was very nearly in Rhode Island. ECU. Font makes it almost seem like it makes that could be a university thing. Winslow Drive, Westcliff West. I don't know what the other one is called because it's just a little bit too hard to make out. Suffolk, Oak Drive, and Trail Lake. Could this be Massachusetts again? I saw Suffolk. Look in there. No, that was Texas. More specifically, Fort Worth. You know, honestly, this is just kind of proving that just how much of the United States kind of looks very similar. High Point and on Ormond Drive. Could this be Arkansas? I don't know. Apparently it was Tennessee. Got Prestige something. Prestige Nursery Garden Center. Abbott Tree Care Professionals. This seems vaguely like it could be somewhere in the south, so maybe around Mississippi. No, it's Chicago again. Alright, I'm gonna guess that this time it's Hawaii. And I actually guessed Hawaii this time, and it was correct. It's 3:02 a.m., so I'm gonna call it here. Thank you everyone who stopped by tonight. Next stream in general is scheduled for Tuesday with The Sims 3. And next Geoguessr stream will probably be on a Saturday at a later point in time. Apparently didn't drink all of my water, so hopefully... Fortunately, the plate that was sitting on my tower protected my computer. Alright, let's find somebody to raid. there's a few people. Interesting that there's two different Geoguessr categories. Which it looks like I'm in the less active Geoguessr category. I'm not really seeing of interest in this raid, so I think I'll just end it here.